gotta love it. You gotta love it. Yes, man. A warm welcome to you, the viewer that's tuning in right now, and welcome to a brand new episode of Plumbing 101. Just in case you don't know who I am, I go by the name of Rendani, aka Rendi, your #1 MC. And I'm currently one of your hosts on this amazing show, as well as the marketing manager for the Plumbing Industry Registration Board. But the show is not about me. The show is all about uplifting and professionalizing the plumbing industry in South Africa. So today's episode is quite jam-packed. There's a whole lot of things we'll be discussing, but I'll be joined in studio by two key contributors within the industry, Mr. Lea Smith as well as JP Liebenberg. We'll also be touching on the 5 major role players within the plumbing industry. That's the consumer, the plumber, the private sector, the government, as well as the media. And we'll also wrap things up with a little bit of some consumer awareness, a bit of non-compliancy, safety for you as well that's watching this. So as I did say, today's show is quite jam-packed. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of everything, I think let's go for a little break. We'll be right back. Being part of an industry professional body is a personal decision.
To those who take pride in their trade, it stretches far beyond having a status of being licensed to issue certificates of compliance.
To them, the consumer matters.
As part of the plumbing industry, you help to bring the most valuable commodity to civilization. Water is life.
Be sure to continue to reap the benefits of being a proudly PIRB registered plumber by continually renewing your registration. Welcome back to all our viewers back at home tuning in. Just before the ad break, I did tell you we'll be engaging 2 key contributors within the plumbing industry of South Africa. So without wasting any time, I've got 2 amazing guests, and of course one in studio with me. He's the owner of VER Strategic Consultants. Now he's been in the industry for over 20 years, and he's the chairperson of the Plumbing Industry Registration Board. Now he's got great knowledge in business. I haven't told him this, but he's actually a indirect mentor to me, you know. And ladies and gentlemen, he goes by the name of Lea Smith. Lee?
Hello, Randy.
How you doing?
Oh, great, perfect, thanks. Thanks for letting me know. Where can I send the invoice?
Look, I wanted to keep it undercover, but because we're speaking to the plumbing industry, I might as well share it.
Yeah, I need more than welcome.
Thank you.
Take the knowledge.
Thank you very much for joining us on the show.
Yes, and thank you for having me.
There we go. And then we've also got JP, who's joining us virtually, ladies and gentlemen. Now, he's the owner of Incredi Solar. He's been in the industry for over 11 years. Now, he's got great knowledge. And I know when we speak JP, we have to speak specialization. That's the key word. You know, I can see him nodding as well. Now, he's got great knowledge in solar and energy management. As I did say, fantastic contributor. JP, how you doing?
I'm good. Yourself, guys.
I didn't do you right. It's actually Jean-Pierre Liebenberg.
Right. JP.
Thank you so much for joining us, JP. We know you're quite busy as well.
It's such a pleasure, yeah. Always good to contribute to the course, yeah.
I like that. I think while we're on and while we're engaging, JP, for those who don't know you, because the brief introduction doesn't highlight who you are, to the viewers back at home, can you just give us a brief background of who JP is?
A brief summary would be, I'm JP from Incredi Solar. I started the company about 11 years ago with the idea on helping people on saving money, first of all, doing what I love, because this is a passion of mine. And then, well, let's say second or third thing is by helping other people. I've got a couple of guys, couple of friends that I help in the industry as well. And I believe to be a role player in my company also grows my company on that side. So I'm specializing in solar, alternative energy supplies. And I hope to take it a bit further on where I am now. And it's always good to be with you guys on the PIRB. I think I've been registered with the PIRB since 2010, if I'm correct. I might be mistaken, it's 2010, 2011. So being a part of a group like this builds a person's self-esteem as well, and a company.
We've also, as I did say, we've got Lee joining us in studio. For Lee, for people who don't know who you are, I know the summary doesn't even summarize who you are, just to give them a little information and background knowledge.
Oh, Just a plumber. There you go. A passionate plumber. Let's put it, a proud, passionate plumber.
Okay.
You know, yes, my background is that I studied construction management and then got into the plumbing industry via my dad, because my dad's been involved in plumbing industry for the last half a century. That way, my brother has been also involved in the industry, and then through there, I just went forward from that point of view. You know, and then as an entrepreneur by nature, I've tried many other things, failed, still fail, as I'm sure everybody can acknowledge.
Yeah.
JP can acknowledge that as well.
Yeah.
From that point of view.
Yeah.
You know, and my role within the industry is just where I can contribute. You know, because as a player, you know, you can sit on the side, or not as a player. You know, you can sit on the sidelines and shout and scream internally and shout at the ref and whatever it is. But if you want to contribute, then make a significant contribution, or not necessarily a significant contribution, but make a contribution.
Bring value.
That's it.
There we go. Now I want to jump straight into our topic of discussion. And JP, please feel free to express as well from your angle. We want to talk about the industry role players, the plumbing industry role players for that matter. And in my understanding, we focus on 5 key role players: the consumer, the plumber, the government, the private sector, as well as the media. All right, so Lee, what in your understanding is the value that they bring to the plumbing industry?
I think it's not necessarily the value that they bring individualistically, you know, because each of them bring their own strengths and weaknesses to the process. I think it's the combination of them all is the proper value, the value position that congregates and brings everything around the table, and the way in which things all tie together from that point of view. So you can't just single one out. They all got to work in tandem with each other from that perspective. Yes, one can argue some are more important than others, but the key is that all the role players have to work together.
Yeah.
To make a success of something.
100%. I mean, we are professionalizing the plumbing industry, you know, ultimately to grow it in South Africa. And I don't know, JP, do you want to make some additions to that? What in your view? Yeah.
Yes. So role playing is quite important. I mean, as Lee said, when he started, his dad actually got him into it. Same as me, my dad got me into it. I mean, that starts not as a consumer or a big construction point of view, but only as a normal plumber point of view. I mean, like Lee said, you only need to make a small difference for someone else to then make their differences. And that's where it started. By my dad being a role player and registering with the PIRB that started, each and every one of them plays a specific role for everyone. I mean, we've got a lot of new upstarts, youngsters that wants to do plumbing. I mean, construction is not maybe his bowl of what do you call it, the meat. You want to do something else. So each and every one of the role players has got a specific task, and it's very important, especially with a governing role. Plays quite a big role in where we're going at the moment.
So each one, I just want to add to that. Thanks, JP. I mean, the analogy there we can draw is about a ship. A ship has various, I mean, with my background in the Navy, a ship is broken up into different compartments, all individualistically, but they all work together for the success of the ship to move forward.
Systematic thinking, interdependency, connected as one with one common purpose. And speaking of that, you know, what are the benefits we get out of the cohesion when they do work together for the plumbing industry in South Africa specifically?
Well, it's very simple. Success, upliftment, you know, a better value proposition to the industry as a whole. And when I say the industry as a whole, it's not one individual, it's the industry as the whole. So yes, we might not be talking the language of one individual person or one specific sector or whatever it is. It's the whole industry, one voice, one direction.
JP?
Yeah, on a more low-key point of view, Lee mentions the bigger things, that's the bigger picture. I'm going more down to the normal plumber point of view. The success there would be each and every one of these guys working together, going in a specialization point of view. If each and every one of the smaller guys comes up and they specialize in a specific industry or part of the plumbing side, they can each make success out of their businesses instead of competing against each other the whole time and bringing the market down. So yes, working as a whole can bring the industry up.
Okay. Now I don't want to romanticize this discussion. All right. I want to take out some rawness from it. Okay. Because we have to keep it real. And I think that's what's going to be impactful, especially to the viewer back at home. Why are we not finding ourselves in a position as a plumbing industry where we should be? Now, do you think it's a matter of the role players not understanding their roles, or is it a matter of there's just a bit of disorganization? What is killing us? What is breaking us down from achieving our maximum potential, speaking specifically about the role players as the plumbing industry?
I think you hit the nail on the head. It's understanding each other. Seek to understand before being understood. And I think that's the most important, is break those barriers down, because you might look at an object, you look at it one way and I look at it another way, but there is only, I wouldn't say there's only one way, but there's a majority way, and that's the way that we all got to, we all have to seek the commonality on that objective, that understanding. And I think that's where we miss each other, because ultimately, I mean, if you speak to anybody in the industry or anybody across, they would want whatever role players you're talking to. I mean, be it the consumer, they want the best product at the best price, be it government upliftment, but ultimately we want a better industry. End of story. It doesn't. It's about the journey to that thing where there might be a misunderstanding and a misalignment.
Okay. Makes a lot of sense. JP, your contribution?
I would say, to start off with, it starts with each person by himself. I think each of us, we are our own worst enemies. We don't want to see another guy performing better than us. I don't want to help the next guy. The next guy doesn't want to help him or myself. And we need to start going out as the companies being registered for 10 years or longer. They're quite a bigger companies, the older guys, the more experienced guys. I mean, they settle. They've got to work. They've got the contracts. Going down and helping a smaller guy and say, listen, this might be competition, but try to help him in a certain direction that would help or benefit yourself as a bigger company. Saying, I don't do the PVC drains or the HDPE drains. I don't have, I sold my machines. I don't have the capacity to do that. So getting a younger guy in and say, listen, get yourself some machines, go in that specific, and you use that guy to come in. And I think the problem is, as role players, we need to encourage people to go and try to assist them into a certain direction. Like we just said, now there's different key role players, and for the viewer out there, go and sit down, see where you fit in and where you can make a small difference, and that is going to start bringing the guys into the industry and working as a whole.
I love the fact that you actually broke it down into specific role players, because you spoke from a technical angle as well, in your engagement. I want to speak about the consumer now quickly, and a sense of consumer awareness. Let's talk about poor plumbing practices, because these are role players. Consumers are critical role players within the plumbing industry in South Africa. But now, how can poor plumbing put people in danger? And I don't think people understand that.
Well, in a very simplistic way, the National Building Regulations, it's been around for decades now. The only trade that is mentioned in that National Building Regulations is the trade of plumbing. No other trade is mentioned. And you ask the reason why, is because of sanitation. And one of the biggest killers in our world is sanitation. And apart from that, apart from the fact that we can talk about the safety around geyser installations, around solar, introduction of heat pumps. There are many various facets and ways that there is a danger to the consumer from that perspective. I think why we don't necessarily see it on a continuous basis is because the standards and those things have been built into it. But the more we move away from that, the more and more we get exposed to those unsafe practices out there. I mean, in my instances, in being in the industry for the last 25, 30 years, it's, in the last couple of years, and I'm talking 2 or 3, I've never seen as many geyser explosions as I've seen over that period. So just to use that as an example.
Okay. And from your angle, JP?
In my point of view, where I'm specializing in, I see more of that because that's what I work with. I mean, solar is it's not a joke. You can burn. I see guys getting third-degree burns from solar, wrong installations. My own guys going into a site need to fix the site, and because of an installation, someone has to do it, and an accident happens. Stack buildings, drainage systems, sewage systems. I mean, it's dangerous stuff. That's not things to play with. So getting back to the one thing we might miss is also standardized units. I mean, in plumbing itself, in non-SABS products. That's quite a big thing I see these days, is the non-SABS products that's being used, because guys going for the cheaper. So back on the consumer point, consumers needs to do a bit more homework like they do on the solar. When you get your client, they already know what they want. Building a house, the same thing. Walking to a suppliers, walking to Chamberlain's or a plumbing suppliers and say, listen, this is what I want. When they present a tap and say, is this a SABS product? I've seen dangerous stuff happen because of non-SABS products, especially valves. So when the consumer listens, please, I think this is a very big concern, going to the non-SABS side of products that we need to look at.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. I think you asked the question about safety, but it's not just about safety, it's about performance of the product.
Yes.
And that's what JP was alluding to, is the approved products, because we must remember that the fact is that those performance of those products have been put in place for specific reasons, and just taking today's time with respect to water savings. You know, if you've got a not approved product, and it's just going to waste water, you know. And I'm using that as an analogy with regards to if the product is used for water reticulation or whatever it is, it might degrade quicker, it might break quicker. And apart from the fact that is also look at it from a consumer point of view, they forked out money thinking that this thing is correct, that it's safe and all that stuff, and it's going to perform correctly, and it might not be the case. So we tend to harp on, or we tend to concentrate on the safety aspect, which, please don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's not important, but we forget about the performance side as well of things.
Yes, but now since I'm speaking to industry experts, I know we're going to take a quick break after this, but I have to squeeze this question in, all right? What are the 3 common mistakes that consumers make when employing a plumber or a tradesperson?
Well, I'll start with one, is they compare plumber to plumber. In other words, so they think that the person standing in front of them is a competent plumber, is a person who's qualified, and I'm going to steer a little bit away from qualified, more on the competency level. They sit there and this guy's selling his services. Now what happens is when that service breaks down, what the consumer does is they don't refer to that person or that plumber. They take this generalization statement and say, the plumber.
Yes. On your side, JP?
I would have to go for price. You get a guy phoning in and say, listen, what you going to charge me for a call out to come and quickly check my geyser? Let's say for argument's sake, 550. Well, I just called 2 other guys. They went to 500 and I can get another one for 450. So I would have to go for price. That's the biggest mistake consumers make 90% of the time.
Yeah, but JP on that specific issue, and he's talking, that can be a whole conversation on its own, is that I think what's very important is because the consumer is, and you spoke earlier on about misinformation or misguidance. So what the consumer is misguided with the way things must be done correctly.
Yes.
Use approved products. So what is their guiding light? Their guiding light is the price. End of story from that point of view. I must add is that the consumer is not a very forth-willing person, because they go for price, and when the pawpaw hits the fan, then they complain and says, why didn't I get the Rolls Royce?
Yes.
But as I said, we can have a discussion on this on its own.
It can take forever. But what I will say, especially to the consumer, all right, the show Plumbing 101 exists for you, because I think it's all about consumer awareness as well. But we'll touch on that as soon as we come back from this break. We'll be right back.
Coming up on the show, we continue the conversation with Lee and JP, who will share their tips on what you need to know before employing a plumber for your home or business. Learn more practical ways to conserve your energy and water from industry professionals. Plus, we've got a message from a proud plumber from Springs. Later, we'll keep you updated on the news and upcoming events for November. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you after this.
My name is Richard Wiederholt from Advanced Valves. I've been involved in pressure reduction valves for the last 26 years. Advanced Valves was founded 6 years ago by myself. We have grown from strength to strength, first starting with a pressure reduction valve, moving along onto vacuum breakers, safety valves, drain cocks, fine filters, thermostatic mixing valves, hydro boxes, diverter valves, and we are not stopping to continue developing new products. Our valves are available at all leading plumbing retailers such as Plumblink, Buco, Build It, Cashbuild. I appeal to all plumbers in South Africa to support Advanced Valves as we are proudly South African.
Welcome back. You're still tuned in to Plumbing 101, and I'm still joined in studio by two key contributors within the plumbing industry in South Africa, JP and Lee. While we're continuing the conversation, a quick recap on what we discussed. We touched on the role players. We've discussed, contributing factors around uplifting the plumbing industry, as well as cohesion, how to make it work, because this industry has a lot of value. It affects every single human being and animals. Because you know why? We transport, or we are responsible for transporting the most valuable commodity, which is water. But I want to turn things around, JP. I want to talk about energy, and Incredi Solar's perspective, managing energy, because energy is the topic of discussion. You see it in the news, you see it in the papers, but I want to hear it from your side, and especially from Incredi Solar's perspective.
As we all know, we've got a big crisis of energy. Water goes hand in hand. We must try to realize, we must realize that we're not 20 years ago where we can just waste water, waste energy, and tomorrow there'll be new ones. We in a very tight spot at the moment. For us, that's being deeply in it and reading the articles, have inside views. We know that we've got a big issue in the energy industry. With energy and no water and energy, it's a big thing. It goes hand in hand. So from my side, I would really like the guys out there to just make a bit of an extra input on it. I mean, it's easy. You get home after work, you're tired, you open a bath, take a long bath. It's normal. It's normal to waste a bit of water washing your hands, put on all the lights, run through the house. That's the normal way we've been grown up, but it's time to change. Things are changing and we're changing, and if you want our children to grow up with the same luxuries as we've got at the moment, we need to make a decision to do some research. I mean, we can sit here for hours talking about energy management and how to do it and how to save water and energy, but I think as a consumer and also as the guys out there, need to go do some homework, sit back, go check some YouTube videos, go online, see what you can do on your side, small things to start saving energy. Energy, as soon as you start saving energy, it goes hand in hand with recycling. I mean, recycling is a big thing at the moment as well. You would start, you will make an effort to do it, but after a month or so, it will start coming naturally. Walking past switching a light, or walking past closing a dripping tap. I mean, that's a big thing that we miss as well. I mean, tap's leaking and we leave it, and as soon as the tap breaks and the water bursts out, then we want to phone someone to come and fix it. So precaution, I would say, is a big thing for us as people to start looking at management of energy and water.
I like that. JP actually just took me back to school. I think, if I remember accordingly, the definition of energy is the ability to do work, unless I'm wrong, all right? So it means I'm exposing, I was quite good at school, all right? But I think you've hit it properly, JP, because without energy, nothing can be done. We cannot be productive, we cannot move, and it's quite critical that from a consumer, from a viewer perspective, that actually we conscientize ourselves with that information, because it affects us directly, which brings us to the discussion of water. All right, Lee, it's out there, it's in the public. Similar question I asked JP around the scarcity of water. It's becoming a crisis, and it's the most valuable commodity. So from a PIRB's perspective, how can we go around maximizing on sharing information around managing water, especially for consumers, for the public, and everyone who directly is affected by this?
Yeah, so I'm gonna revert to what JP said as well, because JP summed it up quite nicely. He says it's not, from a PIRB's perspective, you ask, what can we actually do? It's not as though we got a magic wand and we're going to solve all the problems from that point of view.
Yes.
But it's our contribution, that small little contribution that we create, and create an environment. So obviously we're a little bit higher up on the tree, if you want to call it that way. But JP was talking about all us individualistically. And he was specifically talking about the consumer as well. Yes. Your little bit of contribution adds to the bigger pie at the end of the day. And exactly the same way as the plumber. Your little bit of contribution in what you do and in your process will contribute towards the water saving, towards the energy crisis. And what we as PIRBs, we're just creating that environment for you to operate or to contribute in a significant manner.
Yes. Which brings about the discussion of involving and informing. I think the more we inform the communities around us, it's everyone's responsibility. If you do your part, it's a ripple effect on the rest. I'm encouraged to do mine as well.
Yeah, and we're not asking you to write the Gettysburg Address. It's like JP said, just think about it when you're brushing your teeth, and don't let the water run. Or I consciously, continuously think like that. I got a glass of water at the side of my bed at night, and if I don't finish that glass of water, I cringe if I'm going to throw this water out from that point of view. So it's just those small little things. However you can contribute will just add up at the end of the day. We got, how many, 60 million people in this country? You know what I'm saying? And if we all save, go and do the calculations. Very simple. Go and save 1 glass of water a day by just thinking like that. Or go and switch off 1 light. Just do the calculations,
Makes a big difference.
Makes a big difference.
A big difference. Now, it's so important that I highlight this. We're speaking energy, we're speaking water, and these are all critical functions within the plumbing industry. And for me, it still shocks me that there's a perception around plumbing where it's an informal, non-professional. We know the look around the plumber, and I believe that such engagements are there to shift perception, make people understand that we are a professional industry, and what message would you want to leave, especially the viewer who still has that perception around, I can just pick up any guy, they'll unblock my drain. I can just get someone who I think can install a geyser. What message, and this is a critical message, would you want to leave with the viewer back at home?
To me, very simple.
We can kick started with you, Lee.
Yeah, well, I always jump in. Because just in case JP steals my lines. So to me, if I have to just, if it's to the consumer, just ask the question. Just dig that. JP again alluded to it. Just dig that layer a little bit lower. Ask the questions. Make sure that it's not just has the person, got a follow-up address or follow-up contact, if anything goes wrong, and do your checks and balances at the end of the day. That's it. We're not trying to stop people from earning a living, from that point of view. But let's all get on the same playing field with regards with respect to that. And then if it's to the consumer, ask the questions. Just simply do a little bit of research. There it is. There is the internet. Just quickly double check. Go to the PIRB's website. Go and check the registration there from that point of view. That's just a starting point. Yes. The individual might not be registered with the PIRB. Go and do a couple of references, but don't just accept it on face value.
Yes. JP.
Yeah, we get to the same thing. Research is the biggest thing. When a guy needs to take out 150, 200 grand out of his pocket, he's fast to do research and make sure he's got the right products, he's got the right guys on his property. But when it comes to a more cheaper side of the plumbing industry or energy part of things, we tend to neglect the research part or the backup check part. We just bring in any guy replacing a geyser. Of course, it needs to be done now. I mean, an extra hour won't cost you to not have hot water or less issues. I mean, it's going to actually bring you more joy. The website is there. The PIRB website's there. We've got it to our disposal. I mean, we all got internet. So background checks is the easiest thing to get through, and also word of mouth. Make sure that the person is being referred to, or there's a reference behind it. But again, research is my opinion of the best way to get your things done properly.
100%. I think it always starts with interest. You must have the interest as well, because if you're not interested, you're not going to do the research, so it must come from you as a person and as an individual. And I mean, for me, just this discussion adds so much value, and I believe the viewer back at home as well. There's a lot of information you'll get out of this, and that's why you need to continue tuning into Plumbing 101, because we exist for that. We exist to educate, to inform, to empower, because you are directly affected by the plumbing industry, whether you like it or not. If you don't drink water, what kind of person are you?
But yes, I drink alcohol. But then we can say alcohol.
I see JP's going, yes. But gentlemen, I really value your time, and I thank you so much for joining us on the show. And I believe I speak on behalf of the viewers as well. It's such an informative session, and I know this is not going to be a one-time thing. We're going to have plenty of these conversations because they're ever going. There's so many things we could have tapped into, but I do know that time is of the essence, and we don't want to distort the quality. To JP, to Lee, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for the time.
Thank you for having us. Thanks.
Sanibonani, igama lami Nkosinamandla Tembe. Ngihlala eSprings, ngise Plumlink eSelcotti. Ngihlangane ne-PIRB izosipha ama-opportunity ezisama singekho registered. So ngiyalijabulela ithuba engilitholile kwi-PIRB ukuthi ngibecome i-registered plumber.
Hi there, and welcome back to Plumbing 101. Great and informative conversation from JP, Lee, and Rendani about the one thing that we all have in common: water scarcity. In fact, according to a United Nations article published on the UN.org website titled Integrate Water Supplies and Climate Action, World Leaders Urge, 3.6 billion people globally face inadequate access to water at least 1 month per year. This number is expected to surpass 5 billion by 2050. The message is clear. We need to manage our water better. The more we share information and data, the better we'll become at doing it. Shows like this bring awareness to the public about ways in which we can preserve clean water and sustain our future. But we want to hear your voice. Let us know how you save water in your household. JP has told us, Lee has told us. What about you? Join the conversation. You can go on our Facebook page at PIRB, or our Twitter at Plumbing Board, or Instagram plumbing_industry. We look forward to hearing from you. On to other exciting things. The PIRB is launching a Finder app on the 19th of November, which is World Toilets Day. On that app, you'll be able to find a professional tradesperson at the tap of your finger. We'll give you more information in the coming months, but be on the lookout for that. And then hey, are you a professional, happy and proud plumber? You should download the Plumber app, which makes it easy for you to log your COCs and CPD points and put you at a higher ranking amongst the plumbers. Why wouldn't you want that? You can watch videos to upskill yourself and earn your CPD points. You can buy and sell plumber tools. You can access the PIRB and IOPSA website from the app. And for all the plumbers without an email, no worries. You can send all your questions and queries on the app and we'll be able to connect with you. And then lastly, you'll be able to see how you rank as a plumber. Do you want to be number 1? Do you want to be number 2? Well, that's determined by your CPD point. So get your CPD points going so that you can rank at #1 in your region or your province. Get your CPD points. I'm repeating this. Get your CPD points so that you can be the best in your city. And don't forget, the search engine and the search function is still functional at the PIRB website. So go on there if you're a consumer and trying to find the best and professional plumber that you can use for the problems you have in your home and to make your plumbing system the best that it can be. But from me, Naomi Bango, thank you so much for tuning in. Bye.
And that brings us to the end of our first episode of Plumbing 101. What a fantastic conversation we had with Lea Smith as well as JP Liebenberg, covering the key contributing factors around the 5 major role players within the plumbing industry. And I think from you, or rather for you, the consumer awareness around compliancy and non-compliance is quite informative. Remember, you have to do your research. Go on to the PIRB website, www.pirb.co.za, and become informed. The information is there for you. To you, the plumber, remember, you are responsible for transporting the most valuable commodity, which is water. We do this for you. From my side, until we do it again, you gotta love it. You gotta love it. Yes, man.